You're stopped at a red light minding your own business when you glance in your mirror and see them. Blue lights. Your pulse jumps, even though you haven't done a thing wrong. The officer walks up, taps your window, and says something so ordinary you'd never guess it was dangerous. So where are you headed tonight? It sounds like small talk. It is not small talk. It is the opening move of a strategy that has turned thousands of routine stops into hour-long roadside searches, and most drivers never see it coming because the question sounds so harmless. By the end of this video, you're going to know the exact sentence that shuts that trap down before it opens. It's polite. It's completely legal. And I'm going to show you the actual Supreme Court rulings word for word that make it work. Stick around, because there's a second question officers use that's even sneakier than the first one, and I'm saving that one for the end, right when you'll actually be ready to use it. I'm Robert Hayes, and this channel exists for one reason: to take the law that's supposed to protect you and put it into plain English, so you're never caught flat-footed when it matters. Before we go further, a quick note. I'm a legal educator, not your personal attorney, and everything here is general education, not legal advice for your specific situation. Laws differ by state, so for your exact circumstances, talk to a licensed lawyer in your area. Now let's get into why that "where are you headed" question is doing so much more than it appears to. Here's the part almost nobody explains to you. The officer stopped you for a specific narrow reason: a brake light, a rolling stop, an expired tag. That reason is the entire legal justification for pulling you over, and it has nothing whatsoever to do with your dinner plans. So why ask? Because officers are trained that a traffic stop is an opportunity, not just a citation. Writing the ticket is the easy part of the job. What separates a 2-minute stop from a search of your trunk is one legal phrase: reasonable suspicion. That means the officer needs a specific reason to believe something more is going on. And here's the thing that should get your attention. In most cases, when he walks up to your window, he doesn't have that reason yet. He's hoping your own words will hand it to him. So he keeps the conversation going. Where are you coming from? Where are you headed? Whose car is this? Each question sounds casual. Each one is really an invitation for you to build his case for him. He's not just listening to what you say. He's listening for hesitation, for a detail that doesn't quite line up, for anything he can write down later as justification to dig deeper. And here's the legal reality most people never learn until it's too late. At a routine traffic stop, an officer does not have to read you your rights before asking any of this. The Supreme Court settled that in 1984 in Berkemer versus McCarty. The court held that ordinary roadside questioning during a traffic stop isn't the kind of custodial interrogation that triggers Miranda warnings. Nobody has to tell you that you can stay silent. Nobody has to tell you that your words can be used against you, but they can be, every single one of them. So what happens when people just answer honestly, trying to be cooperative? Let's say a man, we'll call him Frank, gets pulled over for a taillight. The officer asks where he's coming from, and Frank, a friendly guy who's never had so much as a parking ticket, says, "Oh, just my brother's place. We had a couple beers watching the game." Frank thought he was being polite. What he actually did was hand the officer a brand new reason to investigate him for impaired driving. Step out of the car, follow my finger, walk this line. Or picture a woman we'll call Diane. She gets nervous the second those lights come on. Most people do. The officer asks where she's headed and she stumbles. "Oh, just, running some errands." It's the truth. But it sounds vague. And the officer writes in his notes, "Driver appeared nervous, gave an unclear account of travel." That single sentence can become exactly the reasonable suspicion that keeps her sitting on the shoulder while backup and a K-9 unit are called in. Here's the hard truth. You cannot talk your way out of a stop. There is no perfect explanation that makes a fishing officer say, "Well, that clears everything up. Have a nice night." But you absolutely can talk your way into a much longer, much worse afternoon. That conversation only runs one direction, toward him. And there's a second Supreme Court case that matters here. Rodriguez versus United States, decided in 2015. The court ruled that an officer cannot stretch a stop out longer than it takes to handle its actual purpose, checking your documents, writing the ticket unless he's developed reasonable suspicion of something more along the way. That ruling is supposed to protect you. But notice how an officer gets around it. He gets around it by getting you to hand him that something more yourself through conversation. The clock is running in your favor the entire time you stay quiet. It only starts running against you when you start talking. So the obvious answer is just to stay completely silent, right? Say nothing at all. Here's where I have to tell you something that surprises almost everyone because I'd be doing you a disservice if I skipped it. In 2013, the Supreme Court decided a case called Salinas versus Texas. A man was being questioned by police, wasn't under arrest, and when they hit him with a tough question, he simply went quiet. He assumed his silence was automatically protected. It wasn't. The court ruled that just staying silent isn't enough to claim your Fifth Amendment right. If you don't actually say out loud that you're invoking it, your silence can be used against you, treated almost like a sign of guilt. Read that twice, because it changes everything. The right to remain silent is not automatic. You have to claim it out loud in words. And there's a second problem with just going stone silent. It hands the officer a different story to write. Subject was uncooperative, refused to answer basic questions, consistent with someone concealing criminal activity. That silence on its own can become a brick in the wall being built against you. So now you're stuck between two traps. Talk and you might hand him a reason. Go silent and sullen and you might hand him a different reason. What you actually need is the narrow path between them. Calm, cooperative on everything the law requires, and firmly, politely closed on everything it doesn't. Here is that sentence. Say it slowly. Say it the same way every time you ever need it. Officer, I'm choosing not to answer any questions, but here's my license, registration, and insurance. One more time, because I want this living in your memory. Officer, I'm choosing not to answer any questions, but here's my license, registration, and insurance. Let's break down exactly why every piece of that sentence works, because understanding the reason behind it is what lets you say it with real calm instead of nervous fumbling. Start with officer. That single word sets a respectful tone from the first second. You're not picking a fight. You're a citizen who knows the rules and states them quietly. Respect costs you nothing, and it removes his easiest excuse, that you were hostile. Next, I'm choosing not to answer any questions. This is the heart of the whole thing. This is you claiming your right out loud, exactly what Salinas versus Texas requires. You're not sitting there hoping he reads your mind. You're speaking the words that put him on notice. And notice what this is not. It is not a lie. You never lie to a police officer, and you never should, because giving false information can itself become a separate crime. You don't invent a story about where you've been, you simply honestly decline to answer. Declining is your right. Lying is a crime. Keep those two 1,000 miles apart. And here's the legal ground underneath it. Berkemer versus McCarty again. The court was direct. During this kind of roadside questioning, you are not obligated to respond. Not obligated. You don't owe him where you've been, where you're going, or what you were doing there. The highest court in the country said so. Now the second half, but here's my license, registration, and insurance. This is what makes the sentence bulletproof, and it's the part people forget. When you're driving, you do have a legal duty to produce those documents. Driving is a license privilege, and handing over your license, registration, and proof of insurance is a condition of that privilege in essentially every state. That's completely separate from your right to stay silent, and you comply with it fully and immediately. No argument. That's the genius of the line. You've drawn one clean boundary. On the documents, you're the most cooperative driver he'll deal with all day. On the fishing questions, you're politely, firmly closed. He can't write that you refuse to identify yourself. He can't write that you obstructed him. You gave him everything the law actually requires and not one word more. One honest note, because I'm never going to sell you a fairy tale here. This sentence doesn't make the stop vanish. He can still run your license. He can still write the ticket for the taillight. If he already had an independent, legitimate reason to suspect something, he can still investigate it. What this sentence does is stop you from manufacturing his reason for him. It keeps the stop on its own clock, the clock from Rodriguez versus United States, instead of you winding it backward with every extra sentence you offer up. If there's a fight to be had, it happens later, in a courtroom, with a lawyer standing next to you. Not on the shoulder of the highway, where it's just you and him. Now, he's not always going to just accept that answer and wave you off, so let's get you ready for the pushback, because it's coming. First push, a little friendlier, a little more pressure. Come on, it's a simple question. Why won't you answer? You got something to hide? Your answer stays exactly the same calm tone. I'm not trying to be difficult, officer. I'm just choosing not to answer questions. Exercising a right is never by itself evidence of guilt. The second you start explaining why you won't answer, you're answering. So don't. Just repeat the line and let the silence after it do the work. Second push, he rephrases it to slip past your guard. Instead of, where are you coming from, it's, so where are you headed tonight? Same trap, different hat. Same response. I'm not answering any questions, officer. You don't need a new line for every version of the question. One calm sentence covers all of them. Third push. And this is the one I promised you at the top because it's sneakier than the first. Have you had anything to drink today? Or, do you know why I stopped you? That second one is designed to get you to confess to the violation in your own words. Yeah, I guess I was going a little fast. And just like that, you've built his case for him. Both questions get the exact same calm sentence. You're not being rude. You're not refusing to identify yourself. You're simply declining to build the case against yourself, which might be the most American thing you can do. Fourth push, now it gets serious. Step out of the car. I'm calling a K9 unit. I'm searching the vehicle. Listen closely here because this is where people get hurt, and I mean that literally. You never physically resist ever. If he tells you to step out, you step out. The Supreme Court settled in Pennsylvania versus Mims that an officer can lawfully order a driver out of the car during a stop. You comply with every physical instruction, hands visible, calm. But if he says he's going to search, your words still matter. You say clearly, I do not consent to any searches. You don't block him. You don't grab the door. You simply say the words and let your body comply. Because if that search turns out to be illegal, I do not consent is exactly what your attorney uses later to get the evidence thrown out. Comply with your body. Object with your voice. And one more line worth having ready for any point in the stop. Officer, am I being detained or am I free to go? If he says you're free to go, you calmly leave. If he says you're detained, you stay, and you go right back to your one sentence. So let's bring it all the way home. When an officer asks where you're coming from, where you're headed, or whether you know why he stopped you, that's not small talk, that's a fishing line. And you have one calm, legal answer for every version of it. Officer, I'm choosing not to answer any questions, but here's my license, registration, and insurance. You hand over the documents because while you're driving, the law requires it. You decline the questions out loud because the Supreme Court said you're not obligated to answer them, and because you have to claim that right in words for it to protect you at all. 3 rules, and this is the whole game. Comply with your body, assert your rights with your voice, and fight it out in the courtroom, never on the roadside. His turf is the shoulder of the highway, yours is the courtroom. If this gave you a little more confidence for the next time those lights show up in your mirror, hit subscribe so the next person in your life who gets pulled over has someone in their corner who actually knows the rules. And if you haven't already, grab that free guide linked below. It goes through every one of these scenarios in far more detail than one video ever could. Now, before you go, I told you there was a second trap coming, and here it is. There's a phrase officers use that sounds like they're doing you a favor. We can do this the easy way. In the next video, I'm breaking down exactly what that phrase really means, and the Supreme Court case that turns 4 simple words, I do not consent, into the most powerful thing you own. I'll see you there.